What is up, you guys? We are back with another awesome film today, and our movie today starts with DIA agent Henry setting up his sniper to take out a suspected bioterrorist, Valery Dormov. Valery is traveling in a train back to Russia. As Henry lines up his shot, just before he takes it, his lookout, Marino, who's also on the train and tracking Dormov, warns him that a little girl is standing in front of Dormov, and Henry waits until she's out of sight. And when he gets a clean shot, Henry takes it and manages to kill Dormov. Marino later shows Henry a video of people's reaction of Dormov's killing on the train, but Henry tells him to delete it as he doesn't want a reminder. We are taken to a few days later, and Henry has decided to retire from the assassin life, and he's visited by his handler, Dell. Dell wants Henry to continue working since he's the best at what he does, but Henry explains how one wrong move could have ended a little girl's life, and he also talks about how he's not feeling as sharp as he used to. The next day, Henry goes to rent a boat, meeting the shop's new manager Danny, before going to meet his old friend Jack, who's living in his yacht with a young woman. They exchange warm pleasantries before Jack reveals why he contacted Henry out of nowhere. Jack tells him that Dormov was actually an innocent man who's worked as a molecular biologist for the US for the past 35 years. And Jack believes that Henry's file on Dormov was spiked, and Henry has been used for an extrajudicial assassination of an innocent man. Henry is rattled by this news and asks Jack where he's getting this information, and Jack tells him that he's got this info from Yuri Kovacs, who's a Russian spy. Henry's not sure about all this, and he asks Jack to give him the information on the whereabouts of Yuri so that he can talk to him and figure out the truth for himself. During their conversation, it's revealed to us that DIA director Janet and Gemini director Clay are listening in on the whole conversation of Henry and Jack. This is also where we learn that Janet and Clay are the ones who spiked Dormov's files, and they got him killed because they didn't want him going back to Russia and revealing their technology to the Russians. Clay and Janet argue over how to deal with Henry, and Clay offers to use Gemini, but Janet refuses, telling him that she'll handle it herself. Clay then gives her a day to clean up her mess, or else he would step in and let Gemini do it for her. While sailing back, Henry finds the bug planted on the boat, and he goes back to the shop and suspects Danny of working for the DIA. He directly asks her if she's been sent out to tail him, but she denies it, telling him that she doesn't know what he's talking about. She reveals to him that she's just a college student taking a part-time job, and Henry then apologizes and invites her out for dinner. And she agrees, and during their dinner, Henry brings out a file on Danny, confirming his suspicions that Danny is in fact DIA. She reveals to him that she's been ordered to tail him, but she doesn't really know why. And Henry wonders why Janet would send a spy on a retired assassin. Later that night, masked agents sneak into Jack's boat and kill both him and his girlfriend. And soon after, Henry wakes up by the sound of his alarm and realizes that there are agents breaking in. He calls Marino to warn him, but he hears him getting killed over the phone. Henry then kills the agents and then goes to Danny's house to warn her, but Danny was still asleep, confirming that she didn't know about the assassination attempt. He figures she might also be a target and wakes her up. He tells her what's going on, and she runs to get keys for a boat. While in the shop, she's attacked by an agent, but she kicks his ass and makes him give her information about who sent him. Henry comes shortly after, and she confirms to him that the men were sent by Janet. Henry and Danny then sailed the boat to a deserted island, and soon after, Henry's pilot friend Baron arrives at the island and they fly to Katanga, Colombia. Once they get there, Henry calls Dell and asks him what's going on, and Dell explains that he has nothing to do with this, and reveals that Janet is working with Clay and they've ordered a hit on him. Clay was a commander in the Marines when Henry and Baron were soldiers. After their service ended, Clay founded Gemini and offered both Henry and Baron to join him, but they both declined. Later that day, as Henry was in his room, he notices a shooter running across the roof of the other building. Henry goes out the building to lure the shooter, and a gunfight breaks out as they both expertly dodge each other's shots. Henry gets the upper hand for a moment, but when he was about to shoot, he hesitates and sees that the shooter looks exactly like him, but younger. The fighting continues to a bike chase, and now the shooter had the upper hand. But just before he could kill Henry, the police arrives and he flees, and Henry is arrested, but Baron and Danny get him out later that day. The next day, the trio arrive at Budapest to meet Yuri to get information from him, and Yuri agrees to meet them and gives Henry a location. Meanwhile, Danny takes DNA samples from Henry and a hat that the attacker dropped yesterday, and she goes to a clinic to confirm her suspicions. The shooter, simply named Junior, goes back to Clay's house, and he tells Clay that Henry knew how to dodge his every attack, and this was very frustrating to him, and he talks about Henry and tells Clay that it's almost like seeing a ghost. Clay tells him that he's the best and to not hesitate the next time he sees Henry. Back in Budapest, just before Henry goes to meet up with Yuri, Danny reveals that she's given his DNA and the attacker's DNA, and the results show that they were both identical. And this can only mean one thing, and that is that Junior is Henry's clone. Henry can't believe this, but even he can't deny that the attacker looked exactly like him and had the same skills. Henry then meets up with Yuri, and Yuri tells him that he's been a fan of him for a long time, and that he reveals that Dormov worked for Gemini on a cloning project. He reveals that 25 years ago, Henry's DNA was taken from him and Dormov developed a clone. But Clay wanted to make soldiers without conscience and pain, and this made Dormov very uncomfortable as it's very unethical, and he finally walked away from the project, which led to Clay assassinating him. Henry is shook by all this information, but now he knows what to do. He sends a messenger to Janet as she was having coffee, and then he details everything about her life and threatens that he could kill her easily if she doesn't do what he asks. He tells her that Danny is here with him involuntarily, and he asks her to send Junior so he can come get Danny back to the US safely. Janet agrees and sends Junior to Budapest, and later that day, Junior meets Danny alone, and he takes her to a secluded area and ties her up. He then calls Henry and threatens to kill Danny, and then tells him to meet him in a place of his choosing, and Henry agrees to do it. As they wait, Danny tries to convince Junior that he's not a killer, but he doesn't listen to her at all, and he just slaps tape on her mouth. Suddenly, Henry emerges in the room and catches Junior off guard and puts his gun on him and tells him that he doesn't want to kill him, but he will if he has to. He then frees Danny, and Henry starts telling Junior about himself, his fears, his doubts, which exactly match Junior's behavior and personality. He tells Junior that he's a clone, but Junior doesn't want to believe that. They argue a little before a fight breaks out, and Danny grabs the gun as it falls, but Henry tells her not to shoot Junior. He and Junior get into a brawl, and Junior starts overpowering him, and they both fall into a pit of water. Junior starts drowning Henry, and Danny had no choice but to shoot Junior on the shoulder. Junior then lets go of Henry and escapes through the sewers. Junior returns home and demands that Clay tell him the truth as he feels hurt by the lies, as he was told that he was abandoned by his parents, which made him feel unlovable all his life. Clay assures Junior that he's better than Henry and that he is his son. Junior then proceeds to cry, and Clay hugs him and comforts him. Here we see the bond and also the control that Clay has over Junior. Meanwhile, Henry, Danny, and Baron have returned to the US as they plan to take down Gemini. But out of nowhere, Junior appears and shoots Henry with a bee venom, and Henry falls down gasping for air as he's allergic to bees. Junior then quickly administers an EpiPen, and he tells the group that he just wanted to make sure. Junior has decided to team up with Henry and agrees to take them to Clay. But as they stop at a red light, Junior gets a call from Clay and he tells him to run. They then see a tank in front of them, and Henry, Danny, and Junior manage to jump out of the car before getting blown up, but Baron doesn't make it in time. More Gemini agents start to surround them, and Henry and Danny fight off the agents, but Junior goes to Clay, who was watching from the top of a building, and they start to argue, and this turns into a fistfight, and Junior knocks him out. Henry and Danny manage to kill most of the agents, but they then run out of ammo. But Junior then comes from behind and kills the rest of the agents. But meanwhile, Clay wakes up and sends a masked agent to kill Henry, and we see a very skilled man jumping around running to Henry. He attacks them, and all three of them attack him, and he kicks Henry's ass, but Danny uses explosives at him, which finally takes him down. The masked man is then revealed to be another version of Henry who's younger. Clay then comes inside the room and explains that the cloning program was made to reduce the cost of human life during war. He explains that instead of sending someone's child into war and causing families a lot of pain, they can use a soldier that has no family, no emotions, and most of all, no weaknesses. Junior then aims his gun at Clay, but Henry stops him and tells him that if he does kill him, he will never be able to get over it, as it will haunt him for the rest of his life, just as it did to Henry. Henry then takes the gun from Junior and shoots Clay himself. As our movie comes to a close, sometime later, Gemini has been shut down and there are no more clones. Henry and Danny meet up on a college campus where Junior is now attending with the name Jackson Borgen. This name was Henry's mom's maiden name, and they jokingly argue about what major Junior should study in, and the movie ends as they walk off the screen laughing. I hope you guys enjoyed our recap. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and most of all, subscribe to my channel, cause I'm awesome. And also, I love you guys and I promise to see you on my next recap. Bye!